You finally hit the mark they set for you, and instead of praise, the target quietly moves again. You were never meant to actually succeed. Most people believe this is just shifting priorities, or a boss and partner who simply expects more over time. But in advanced behavioral psychology, we know that when the goalpost moves the exact moment you reach it, every single time, it stops being ambition and becomes a mechanism. Today you are going to learn exactly how this mechanism is built, why your brain keeps chasing it anyway, and the precise method to force the goalpost to hold still. To understand why this works, you have to understand what the manipulator is actually optimizing for. It is not your success. A genuinely invested person wants you to reach the target, because your success reflects well on the relationship or the outcome they claim to care about. Someone running the moving goalpost trick is optimizing for something else entirely, your permanent low-grade shortfall. As long as you are always almost there, you remain motivated, compliant, and endlessly trying to earn something that was never actually going to be handed over. Success was never the objective, the chase was. Here is how the mechanism is built. It starts with an initial target that sounds completely reasonable, sometimes even generous. Hit this number, finish this project, reach this milestone, and things will change. You work toward it in good faith, because the target is specific enough to feel achievable. The moment you reach it, though, something subtle happens. The response isn't celebration, it's a quiet redefinition. Well, I sort of assumed you'd also handle this. I mean, technically you hit it, but not really the way I meant. The new standard is introduced with just enough plausible deniability that arguing about it feels petty, even though the actual target has clearly shifted. Notice the specific pattern once you know where to look. The original goalpost is almost always stated with precision, because precision is what makes it feel motivating and fair in the beginning. The revised goalpost is almost always vague, because vagueness is what makes it impossible to pin down and permanently unreachable. This asymmetry is not an accident. A precise target can be verified as met. A vague one can always be reinterpreted the moment you get close, which is exactly the function it's designed to serve. Here is why your brain keeps chasing it anyway. Human motivation responds powerfully to near misses, the sense of almost having something, far more than it responds to either total failure or total success. A slot machine doesn't hook you by never paying out. It hooks you by paying out just often enough, and by making every loss feel like it almost hit. The moving goalpost exploits this exact same wiring. You are not chasing approval because you're naive. You are chasing it because your nervous system has been placed in a permanent state of almost, and almost is one of the most motivating psychological positions that exists. Here is the exact three-phase method to force the goalpost to hold still. Phase number 1 is the written record. Before you begin working toward any target set by this person, get the specific criteria stated clearly, and repeat it back in writing, even informally. Just to confirm, if I hit this number by this date, that's the agreement. This does not prevent them from shifting the goalpost later, but it removes their ability to pretend the original target was ever vague to begin with. Phase number 2 is the naming of the shift. The moment the goalpost moves, do not silently absorb the new standard and start working toward it. Calmly name the shift out loud. This is different from what we originally agreed on. Can you help me understand the change? This forces the redefinition into the open, where it has to be either acknowledged and justified or quietly withdrawn. Phase number 3 is the fixed standard. Once you've named the shift, do not immediately begin chasing the new target as if it were always the deal. State plainly that you met the original agreement and that any additional expectation is a new conversation, not an extension of the last one. I did meet what we agreed on. If there's a new ask, let's talk about that separately, with its own terms. Understand what happens once you consistently apply this method. Someone with genuinely shifting circumstances will acknowledge the change, explain it honestly, and renegotiate terms that hold. Someone running the moving goalpost trick will often get irritated that you're keeping track at all, or vaguely accuse you of being difficult about something that used to feel simple. That reaction is the answer. A legitimate shift in expectations can survive being written down and named. A manufactured one depends entirely on staying blurry enough that you never quite catch it moving. The next time you hit a mark and feel the target quietly shift instead of hearing praise, do not immediately start running toward the new line. Write it down, name the shift, and hold the original standard as met. You hold the psychological matrix now. If you want to keep building your psychological armor and mastering the hidden laws of human behavior, protect your mind by hitting that subscribe button right now. Stay aware, stay safe, and never let them pull your strings.